If we are to have a democracy that lasts, we need to train our young citizens how to function in the democracy and how to be participating, informed, reasoned decision makers.
We want students that are part of their community and part of society, that are productive, hopefully are plugged into what's happening in the government.
It's not just the history of what happened in the United States. I think it is the application of what we know about our social contract. How do we contact our representatives? How do we deal with the person next door? Those are all civic attributes that we want everyone to have, not just students. And I think the earlier we start, the better.
In recognition of the importance of teaching effective citizenship, the Center for Civic Education, the Center on Congress at Indiana University, and the National Education Association honor outstanding civic teachers with the American Civic Education Teacher Awards. The 2008 recipients are Cheryl Cook-Kallio, Julie Kuhnhein, and Sally Broughton.
Now, this is something that we sometimes hear about in California, and that is that English as the official language of the United States. How many of you in here speak more than one language? Raise your hand. Okay. Question I'm asking you today is a common language essential to the survival of American democracy? I think it's very important to challenge students to think based on their own personal experience and their own community, while still being able to discuss things in a safe manner, and recognize that just because you disagree with someone doesn't make them a bad person, or doesn't mean that you might not agree with them in some other level.
I think that not having a common language is essential to American democracy, because American democracy fosters so many different types of viewpoints, and it encompasses so many different ways for different people with different backgrounds to be involved.
Although it's perfectly fine to be able to speak different languages, I think that for political discourse in America, you have to be able to speak English, because otherwise things are lost in the translation.
Does having an official language, thereby only printing things in English, does that violate an equal access?
She's imparting her own knowledge of civics to her students, and in doing so, she's infusing her love for civics into her students so that they can better society in their own ways.
Having an official language definitely infringes upon the rights of all these citizens who don't speak the language, and therefore, even though the rights are guaranteed in the Constitution, if they can't understand the rights given to them, can't understand the rights of a citizen because they can't read it or don't know the language, and they're basically being deprived of all those rights.
The best part of We the People is that kids start to learn for the sheer joy of learning. For me, that I think is the benefit to this, is to watch them discover why things are the way they are and what they can do to change it.
She pushes us to work even harder, and she pushes us to be better students and to be better citizens and to be better people.
There is a difference between common language and official language. This idea that somehow or another I tell them that I value civic virtue and then show them how I value civic virtue, I think is very, very important.
Every day in school, when she preaches civic education, when she talks about the importance of being a civic participant, not only is she just teaching us in class, she's actually doing that in her life.
When Cheryl steps up as a city council member, isn't that just such a sweet way to say, I not only understand it, I'm going to show you guys, this is part of our responsibility as citizens.
We call her the Constitution Queen.
Cook-Kallio is just absolutely amazing.
If you love learning, because you can't teach without learning, there's just no way that can happen. If you love kids, that it's the absolute best job in the world.
I want you to come up here and place yourself on the grade, but the grade that you would give Congress. This end being A plus, this end being F minus. What's the hook to get them interested? I think civics and social sciences in general, but especially civics, are very easy to relate to experiences. It seems like the bell curve is in effect here. There's a number of responsibilities, of course, Congress has, right? We know, first thing we think of is making laws. definitely. But there's other things. There's congressional oversight, there's interaction with constituents, there's a number of responsibilities that they have. So let's kind of break it down and see how we might grade them on each level.
She has a passion for civics education. She has a passion for getting students involved. She has a passion for making sure that they take responsibility and live up to their role within the system.
I'm going to give you one question to consider about Congress, how you would grade them on the specific area.
I think civics education reinforces and strengthens the other areas of social studies, American and world history, and it really kind of takes what's in a textbook and puts it into action.
We're going to have you read your question, give us your grade, and then your why to the grade that you gave Congress on this area.
Mine is, does Congress carry out effective presidential and executive branch oversight? And I'm going to give them an incomplete on this one.
Okay, it's to be determined?
Yeah, historically speaking, you can obviously point to like Watergate as an example where the Congress was very active and did effective oversight. But I think currently, if you look at the Iraq War, for example, and a lot of the Democrats who are kind of posturing as anti-war say a lot of things, but when it comes time to authorize appropriations, they're unwilling to use the power of the purse to actually rein in the policy that they disagree with.
So I think that's a fair grade, incomplete.
It's been one of the greatest classes I've ever had. I mean, not just social studies wise, but Ms. Kuhnhein always makes class really entertaining. I mean, even if it's just little sidebar comments to keep our attention, or, you know, activities like this that we do.
The best advice for civics teachers is to take advantage of resources that are already out there, because there's great stuff that you can use. Groups like the Center for Civic Education and the Center in Congress have wonderful material for teachers. You know, it's inventive, creative, it applies to students' lives.
And this is what I want to point out on the survey results, was the role of the citizen in all this. So how well do we try to actually educate ourselves on Congress, keep in touch with members of Congress, and communicate? So what do we see in regards to citizens? Do we score well?
The part I like best is, you know, at the end when you have to look at yourself as a citizen, you know, are you doing all you need to do to be an active part of your government?
To see them understand a concept and to see something really connect is a great feeling.
I want you to right away think about a law, a rule that affects you here at school, that the school board made that has something to do with you.
She allows us to not only learn our subjects but interact with them.
She's going to say somebody's name in the group, and then she's going to tell a school board rule, law, regulation at Monforton that we have to follow. Do you have one in mind?
No candy in classrooms, Lisa. No wearing Heelys. Can't roll on Heelys. Taylor.
Tug and release, gentle tug and release. And you can feel how all the laws are pulling on you and letting go and pulling and tugging on each other. And this is the way public policy works. That's what you're working for when you ask the school board to change a public policy. Project Citizen empowers students. It teaches them how to take a part in the world, how to make a difference, how to change things.
The Monforton Master Plan indicates that as Monforton School grows in population, we will need to expand onto the donated land. However, Monforton School Road will then be directly through the campus, dividing schools and play areas.
This is the overpass over the Monforton School Road.
They know how to make changes. They know how to go through the process of making change.
One time we testified in front of the county commissioners, and the county commissioners never vote 3 for nothing. They never do that. And we went in, and my students were presenting the PATH project about getting a path built to Monforton School. And these little 6th graders marched up in front of the commissioners, in front of the television, and the whole room was full of people who were there waiting to their turn to ask the commissioners for something. And they just marched right up and told them what they wanted. And when they got through, the commissioners voted 3 for 0 for what they asked for. And on top of that, the head of the commission lectured the audience and said, if you people would be as organized as these 6th graders are, when you come to ask us for something, you would pass on the first time too.
She helps kids be active. She helps to give them a voice. And she makes it so that all the adults listen to their voice.
Through Project Citizen, students have brought to the school and community a safe path next to the road, a tunnel under the highway, a cafeteria with a hot lunch program, a safety helmet program for students, and a playground that includes a climbing wall.
It just sort of happened. They did it because they felt passionate about the need for a playground for our community.
Project Citizen has taught us that we actually can make a difference in what happens in our community, and that even though we're not old enough to vote or not old enough to do many things, we have realized that we actually can make a difference and try to help others.
She's excited about what they're doing and gets them excited, and the performance then of the kids and the learning that goes on in her classroom is just totally amazing.
I teach civics because I love it, because I think it is so important for the formation of young citizens, and I find great reward in helping them to develop and feel empowered and to feel like they are ready to take their part in our society.
The program was designed not only to recognize teaching excellence, but also to provide additional learning opportunities for its recipients. The honorees received a 3-day, all-expense-paid trip to the nation's capital. Julie Kuhnhein was not able to participate. The trip began with a tour of the National Archives.
After renovations, for the very first time that all 4 pages of the Constitution have been on display. This was considered a working document, so it had less sort of star power, if you will, than the Declaration of Independence.
In the Resource Center, they viewed primary documents and examined resources available on the National Archives website.
You can also create a movie.
Oh my gosh.
The teachers went to Capitol Hill for a variety of activities, including a chance to meet with Senate historian Richard Baker.
And we also work with brand new senators. You know, imagine being elected to the Senate, and there's no reason why you should know very much about anything other than how to win a Senate seat.
They also enjoyed a tour of the Capitol and a meeting with Deputy Historian of the House, Fred Beitler.
Can you think of examples of people who have come on, who've been elected, who've made immediate impacts?
Yeah, there's some very clear historical examples. If you look back to American history, I mean, the classic is Henry Clay, who his first day in Congress is elected Speaker of the House.
When they went to the Department of Education, they met with Assistant Deputy Secretary Deborah Price.
People are learning from your example.
The teachers felt especially honored in meeting with their own members of Congress, including Representative Dennis Rayburg.
We would really like to help the Montana teachers. That has been my goal, to help.
In Representative Pete Stark's office, Cheryl caught up with a former student, now an intern. He described the value of her class.
Knowing how government works, knowing how important it is, and all of the things that it can do and how to make a difference.
But I'll take this opportunity to thank you for your support. I know that you do many, many, many things for my students.
Sally met with Montana Senators Max Baucus and John Tester. Additional activities included touring the Supreme Court and meeting with former Congressman Lee Hamilton, director of the Center on Congress.
I really am committed to the idea of trying to expand the knowledge of people, students especially, about the institution of Congress.
I'm most excited about taking back to my classroom the valuable resources from the National Archives. That to me was very eye-opening. I learned a lot from the Senate historian and the House historian, which I can share with my 8th graders.
There is always something new to learn, and that the more content I gain from this personal experience that I've had here in Washington, the more enriching my teaching becomes, and that benefits my students.
And I want to say, truly, this was an honor, and I have enjoyed every minute of it.
The teachers were honored at a national conference for civic educators in Washington.
Henry Adams famously said about teachers, "A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops." It's a great privilege to recognize the accomplishments of these 3 teachers, whose influence has probably already circled around the globe and is poised to affect generations of students yet unborn.
I know that I'm in the company of greatness because I know I'm in a room full of people who share my passion for democracy. I know I share this award with all of you and the students we have collectively touched. What they learned from me and from you is that government is accessible. I love what I do. I find teaching rewarding every single minute of every day. And I believe that I am fortunate to have a glimpse of the impact of what I teach. I thank you for recognizing my contribution, and I know that I am just a small part of what we all do for students every day.
Civic education is vital in developing not only informed students, but also critical students and critical citizens. I think it's important for students to be critical, and it's something that I value in my classroom. I encourage students to be critical of themselves and their own views, and I encourage them to debate and discuss topics in a democratic way. We ask students to be critical, but we expect more from them. We expect action.
Each day is a joy as I watch my students gain knowledge, skills, and dispositions they need to become informed, reasoned decision makers in our world. Without civics as a core subject, how can our future citizens learn to become engaged, active, and participating members of a representative democracy? Today we are teaching children who will have to fill jobs that have not been created. They will have to use technology that has not been invented, and they are going to have to answer questions that have not yet been asked.
Teaching is the best job in the world. It is, it's fuel for my soul.
It makes me feel a lot better about the future for civics education and know that there's so many people out there fighting for it.
I love watching young people grow and mature and feel empowered and develop. And I can't imagine doing anything else.